New coronavirus rules are in place from today. What can you do? What can't you do? What should you do? Find out soon. West Midlands advanced, professional and highly skilled police drivers writing off close to one vehicle per week at a cost of almost £750,000. Police want access to DNA databases from ancestry.co.uk, 23andMe and more, they say, in order to try and solve historic crimes. Good or bad idea. And police could soon be given the power to stop and search those with certain prior convictions without reasonable suspicion. This and more coming up. Don't forget, these reports are daily, Monday to Friday. Please remember to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you appreciate the work I do, please consider joining the channel Patreon for as little as just £3 per month to help me continue providing this content. Well, hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners. My name's Dan and welcome back to another PAP Reports. It is Monday, 14th of September 2020, and I hope you had a great weekend. So most of you may have already heard about the rule of 6, the new coronavirus rules. I thought I would cover this briefly as, of course, I want people to be safe in their dealings with the police and not be subjected to any unnecessary aggravation from the boys and girls in blue. If you haven't heard these yet, then buckle in because this is a bit of a crazy ride. There are some exemptions from the rule of 6, and that's exactly what we're just about to be going through. Although, as per normal, not exactly well thought out, or even put across in a way that's understandable by most people. The first exemption, families and households larger than 6 people. If everyone lives together, then the rule of 6 doesn't apply, meaning that if you have a big family or your household is of more than 6 people, then that's allowed, thankfully. The rule will only apply to other people visiting you, as it's to stop people being in the same place at the same time, meaning you won't be able to have any visitors round if you already have 6 or more people in your household. And although this is to stop people being in the same place at the same time, shopping is still allowed, as are the following exemptions. Exemption 2, support bubbles. Support bubbles can be made up of 2 separate households, but they will count as one household and can therefore be a group bigger than 6. However, you should only be in one support bubble, and one of the 2 households in the bubble should only have one adult. So in order to form a support bubble, either you must be the only adult in your house, or your support bubble household must be a single parent with children, none of which are adults. Number 3, divorced and separated parents. Existing arrangements for childcare where children don't live at the same household as both of their parents can carry on. Now, this means that children can travel between divorced or separated parents. Even if there are other adults in the household, meaning that a child could, in theory, go from a household with 6 with one parent to another household of 6 with the non-resident parent, while one of those families could have a support bubble with another family. Number 4, schools and playgrounds. The rule of 6 doesn't apply in any form of education, training, registered childcare or providers offering before or after school clubs for children. There is also an exemption for children's playgroups and youth groups, although these will have to be done in a COVID secure manner, meaning that the child in the previous example, who lives with one parent and his family, can go to school all week with hundreds of other children, come home every night to his or her family, then go on the weekend to the non-resident parent's home with their children and potentially their support bubble, who may have kids themselves at other schools. Number 5, work. You will still be able to go to work. And if you take the last example and add the fact that one or both of the parents from the 2 households and the support bubble household might work all week, coming into contact with countless people in an office or customer-faced role, and these are designed to stop people from gathering. Number 6, weddings and funerals. Wedding and civil partnership ceremonies and receptions can carry on with up to 30 people attending. Other religious life cycle ceremonies can also go ahead. The same is true for funerals, where up to 30 people will be able to attend. But as an individual, you can share custody of a child who would be in a close contact to more than 30 kids on a daily basis. You can also go to work and be in contact with many more people co-workers, customers, go shopping, wander around the supermarket with dozens of customers, pick up items that tens of people have already touched, but that doesn't matter. Number 7, exercise classes and sport. You will be able to go to your exercise class as long as it's socially distanced. Organised indoor or outdoor sports and exercise classes are all allowed, but it must be organised. You can't meet your friends to play football in the park. Elite sporting competition or training is also allowed. So professional football matches are allowed, but organising a football match with your friends in the park, even though organised, is not. Number 8, protests. Protests are also exempt. I'm sure you'll all be glad to hear that. From the rule of 6 here in England. The protests and political activities must be organised in compliance with COVID-19 secure guidance and subject to strict risk assessments. In which case I'd like to see Piers Corbyn's fine overturned. Only because of how the police handled the situation, and I'm not saying I approve or disapprove of that protest, but when you have the 1 million person march on the same day and they were allowed to continue with police approval, you can't then penalise another protest happening at the same time just because you don't like the person running it or for political reasons. Other exemptions. You can be in gatherings larger of 6 for the following reasons. Fulfilling legal obligations such as attending court or jury service, providing emergency assistance or providing support to a vulnerable person, for you or someone else to avoid illness, injury and harm. Now, what this does is not only make the government look a laughing stock, but also it causes a situation where more and more people will start to be confrontational. Store workers, police, security guards, etc. now have more reason to start questioning the public, asking intrusive questions that, quite frankly, have nothing to do with them. It's going to cause general members of the public to become confrontational, and you might even find families out for the day being targeted by busybodies, idiots and law enforcement, causing alarm and distress to people in a time that they are already stressing out. The other thing that they've done is caused an unenforceable situation, which is backed up by ex-Supreme Court Judge Lord Sumption, who spoke to LBC Radio on Sunday morning. Lord Sumption likened the new rules which came into force today like a Stasi state. Now, I don't want to simply repeat what Lord Sumption said, so I'll link to the video of him speaking up here, and you can go check that out at the end of this video, but needless to say, he's not overly impressed at the draconian measures being put in place. It is also important to note that it's been confirmed by number 10 Downing Street that police won't start fining people for breaking the rules of 6 immediately, and will take some days before the police actually get their guidance on how to proceed. Although we know from experience that that won't stop the police from abusing the fact that they assume we members of the public don't know anything. So please be aware that the police have zero guidance at the moment on how to deal with these new rules, and so it's likely that many fines, if issued over the next few days, may not be in line with the new rules and should all be appealed against. And lastly, be warned, as Kit Malthouse has encouraged people to call the police on their neighbours to report gatherings of more than 6 people. He told the BBC that we're in discussions about what reporting mechanisms there might be, but there is obviously the non-emergency number that people can ring and report issues they wish to. Certainly during the initial stage of lockdown, we did see a surge in those reports coming through the police. He added that if people are concerned or think there is contravention, this option is open to them. When he was asked if neighbours should make a call if they witness a gathering of more than 6, he said it is open to neighbours to do exactly that through the non-emergency number. And if they are concerned and they do see that kind of thing, then absolutely they should think about it. No, you absolutely should not be grassing on your neighbours. You should be worrying about what you're doing to keep yourself safe and not what others are doing. Providing you're wearing your mask and washing your hands, if you believe that will help you, you'll not be affected by some people not doing the same. So although you might be safe from COVID with your face mask and hand gel, you might not be safe from recourse should you start grassing up the people that you have to live next to. Sticking on the theme of the government and this whole COVID situation, and this is the last I'll speak of it in today's video, the government have been holding an open consultation over the distribution of vaccines and treatments for COVID-19 and flu, and as far as I'm aware, there's not a great deal of people know about this. This is a digital consultation open to the public to respond to, and as it's such an important consultation over such an unprecedented situation, I personally would have thought that the government would have spent some money advertising this so they could get more of the public's feedback. But then again, I guess like terms and conditions, you can write what you want, and providing you don't make a fuss over them to your customers, but at the very least make them available to them, and you're covered if you want to screw over a customer who's not read them. This is the same game being played here, in my opinion. The government have uploaded the document to their website, but as far as I can tell, that's all they've done. It's taken people who are actively looking to have come across it and found it. Anyway, the consultation are seeking views, without actually actively seeking them, on proposed changes to the Human Medicine Regulations 2012, which, as we discussed in a video last week, will potentially enable them to dish out unlicensed vaccines with zero liability to the pharmaceutical companies, specifically covering authorising temporary supply of an unlicensed product, civil liability and immunity, expanding the workforce eligible to administer vaccinations, promoting vaccines, making provisions for wholesale dealing of vaccines. So this so-called public consultation closes at 11:59 p.m. on the 18th of September, and I highly recommend that you go read it and make your concerns known. The more people who do this, the better. And please don't think that your voice won't make a difference, because all of the people who think that will inevitably ensure that your voice won't make a difference. So please go and read it. And although they have purposely made it difficult to find and the link to respond purposely indistinguishable from the rest of the page, the link in the description on the screen to show you the location of the respond link. Remember, the government are going to say that they asked the public, and can get away with saying that because the document is online in the public domain and they have no obligation to let you know about it. If we don't respond, they will take that as consent to their proposals, and we can't allow for this legislation to go forward. Now let's get back on track with the normal stars of these reports. During 2019, it's been said that in the West Midlands police force, on average, one police vehicle was written off every single week, according to a Freedom of Information request. Yet those highly trained, highly skilled, highly advanced police trained drivers are writing off on average one vehicle each and every week at a total cost during 2019 of £750,000. The most expensive write-off was a BMW 330DX drive, worth almost £49,000. A West Midlands Police spokeswoman said West Midlands Police has a fleet of 1,552 vehicles, which are in continual use 24 hours a day, travelling over 21 million miles a year. Many of the vehicles are used in response duties, reacting to critical incidents across the force areas. And don't forget, causing critical incidents too, along with the fact that the police will use their blues and twos on almost every call out, even if it's not a genuine emergency. I've seen police speaking to someone who's compliant and polite, and yet another police car comes down the road with its blues and twos on for no reason at all, meaning they were speeding and breaking the rules of the road to get to an incident that didn't warrant an emergency response. Anyway, she continued, responding to emergency incidents does come with some risk, and on occasions our vehicles have been involved in collisions where in some cases the car is written off. Thankfully, cases where people, be it officers or members of the public, have been injured are relatively rare. Police officers spend a lot of time behind the wheel of a car, which is why our driver training is comprehensive and robust, with a focus on safety and proportionality. And that must be why we've seen more and more police crashing into people's gardens then. As for the time the police spend behind the wheel, maybe they should simply get out and back on their feet a little bit more often. Drivers are trained to a very high standard, and any collision involving a police vehicle is thoroughly investigated and the appropriate action taken. Only 15 vehicles written off last year were attributable to police officers' actions. We shared blame for 9 incidents, and 4 were a result of criminal damage. We reclaimed the full cost of 21 vehicles. So now you know where a large chunk of the budget goes. Maybe people won't be so forgiving the next time the police moan about a lack of money. A 38-year-old prison guard, Katia Rocha, appeared in Norwich Crown Court on Friday after admitting misconduct in a public office, after being caught out banging an inmate at HMP Norwich. Rocha of Rockingham Road, Norwich, admitted between November 15 last year and January 20 this year, while acting as a prison officer at Norwich Prison, willful misconduct that amounted to an abuse of the public's trust by conducting an intimate relationship with a prison inmate. Judge Andrew Shaw adjourned her case for pre-sentence reports, but told her it was a serious matter and told her that would normally the sentence would be one of immediate custody. Now, although we have to wait until October the 2nd to find out if banging in the prison is going to see her banged up in prison, I will of course let you know when more information is available. Sir Steve House, the Metropolitan Police Deputy Commissioner, has spoken out in a warning about releasing body cam footage to the public after Priti Patel said last week that the footage should be made available. Now, I've been saying for some time there is nothing really stopping the police from uploading all of the footage automatically to a cloud. The file is then locked for, say, 24 to 48 hours before being made publicly accessible, and that's to ensure that it's not needed for a case or a complaint. Not only will the police know that they will be held accountable, but the police will also know that the full story is available to any incidents, which will prevent people from lying, whether it's a member of the public trying to get away with something by lying, or the police themselves not being honest in their own reports. However, Sir Steve has said that it's a bad idea, as it may make police look bad. His words, not mine. Sir Steve House said showing some of the tactics police deploy might have an adverse impact on public attitude. He said the current position was to only publish them in extremis, as in only if they really have to and have no other choice. In July, the Police Federation's National Chair, John Apter, said social media clips which have been taken by members of the public, at times in controversial circumstances, were incredibly damaging to policing, and releasing more body-worn footage would mean people can see the full picture. In a speech to an online conference of the Police Superintendents Association of England and Wales, Sir Steve said the main issue was that if footage was released to make police look good, then there would be pressure to release it in every case. Many of the tactics that we use for officer safety and are trained frankly look bad. One officer cannot restrain a violent individual. It can take 4 or 5 officers to do that safely, he said. He added it meant that police needed to be quite discriminating, and body-worn footage would only be released in extremis, such as if we think it is necessary to prevent outbreaks of serious disorder or serious violence. And this is where we, the public, are being treated as idiots by the police. I mean, even I know that if someone's swinging a hammer or punching police in the face, then the threat is real and imminent. Then they have not only the police duty, but their own personal safety duty, just as we do as citizens, to do what's necessary to eliminate the threat. I don't think many people would argue that. The issue is the police are trained in techniques that the public are not, or at least the very vast majority of the public, and so by rights should be able to detain most people without excessive force or gratuitous violence, which is what we see in many cases. If the public saw a body-worn video of someone with a knife jabbing at police and the copper tasered them, I wouldn't even report it on air, because rightly so. If I had a taser and someone did that to me, I'd tase their ass too. But if the police tasered someone twice for riding their bike without lights and simply refused to be handcuffed, then rightly so. That would be a serious misuse of force, and the twant would need holding to account. You'll understand why I used that taser twice for riding a bike in an upcoming video. Speaking about Sir Steve's comments, Mr Apter said he agreed entirely with what was said, and footage cannot be released in every situation, as some tactics could look unnecessary and heavy-handed. However, when there are no outstanding issues and releasing it would help public confidence about the police actions, then it should be, he added. Met Commissioner Cressida Dick has previously said she would love to release more of the footage, but there were potential issues with privacy laws, while at times it risked undermining investigations and proceedings. So what's likely to happen? Rather than my idea, they will turn the release of body-worn video into one of these nightly police documentaries where some Channel 5 cameraman follows the police and cleverly edits the footage to make it seem that the police are constantly under attack by violent criminals, normalising the amount of force used in more police propaganda. An ex-detective expert on the Yorkshire Ripper wants police to be able to have access to DNA websites, databases such as ancestry.co.uk, 23andme.com, findmypast.co.uk, in order for trawler bots to find matches or potential matches for DNA records held by the police. Ex-detective Chris Clark believes the labs which pore over DNA data millions of people have sent into genealogy firms could hold the key to nailing killers at large, using cases such as Jill Dando's murder to pull on people's heartstrings. After all, emotion is far stronger than reason. Clark is leading a campaign for a law change which could let police access DNA website files, though are currently banned from doing under strict privacy laws. But Chris Clark, who wrote the bestseller on Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe, who killed 13 women, said only the guilty have to fear. British police need to exploit the potential of publicly accessible DNA sites in the UK. Of course, isn't that one of your favourite lines in the Blue Line Gang? If you've nothing to hide, you've nothing to fear. Tell that to the innocent people who have been banged up, killed or otherwise stitched up by the police. What next? Swabble babies at birth for the police database? Don't get me wrong, I have often thought about how a truly private and independent database of every baby's DNA would, in some cases, be a massive help in a myriad of circumstances, such as identifying a body or a kidnapped child. But with everyone's intentions being on how much more money they can make, which ultimately ends up in people selling your data, there's no way to make it truly independent and private. I imagine a system where the police give the DNA profile that they have to the DNA company. The DNA company only ever give them feedback if they have an exact match on an unidentified body or a child who's been kidnapped, and the police want to know if that child is the one they're looking for example, without letting the police get their grubby hands on all the other data like familial matches or close matches. Unfortunately, as I say, this would never be the case, and just like everything else would be abused to the detriment of every person and not to the benefit of a few. Clark said, I believe there needs to be a comprehensive check for familial DNA hits on British cold cases. This would entail a law change, and that is why I started a petition to highlight the massive potential for crime solving. I'm sure using this method would lead to murder and rapes being solved. It might even expose serial killers who have literally got away with murder. The clamour to access UK data follows huge breakthroughs in the United States, where police in some states can check crime scene DNA against ancestry site records. Former intelligence officer Clark believes the same tactic could be used here to unravel many of the unsolved British murders. He said helping grieving families far outweigh the protection of personal data. But amending the law could face huge opposition from those who defend the right to privacy. Clark's petition needs to get 10,000 signatures, which will then guarantee a response from the government. The National Police Chief Council said there was no national policy for the 43 forces on using UK or US DNA websites. They said it was for individual chiefs to decide, but were not aware of any doing so. Chief Constable James Vaughan, National Police Chief Council lead on forensic science, said nationally there are no plans to use these sites. If an investigation opted to use this methodology, it would need to meet the relevant ethical standards. A very interesting topic that quite frankly fascinates me, as I can't see how they would do this without huge opposition or breaching people's human rights. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments. Now, over the past couple of weeks, we've spoken about not only the Harpers law being discussed to give greater penalties to those people who, in the process of committing a crime, kill an emergency worker, and the police covenant, which is another piece of legislation to give the police more protection from the public should the police do anything wrong, making them even more unaccountable, as they will all close ranks with the legal backing of the covenant, which will, as Priti Patel has said, be enshrined in law. Well, I wanted to take a few moments to show you, the people watching this, why this entire idea that the police are constantly under attack and are being killed is utter BS. The HuffPost posted a video on their YouTube channel at the beginning of the year which highlights some of the approximate 1,740 people who have died in police custody or following police contact in England and Wales since 1990. More than 1,740. Now, assuming that the reason this number isn't spoken about much, but the amount of police being attacked or killed is always big news, you would expect the number of police who have died in the line of duty in England and Wales to be much higher, right? Wrong. Now, I spent a fair bit of time last night doing some research, going through year by year on the policememorial.org.uk website Roll of Honour page, which lists a pretty accurate count of the police who have died in the line of duty, although some listed were killed as a result of an accident on their way to or from work. But after going through year by year, I found the following. Since 1990, there has been approximately 432 police constables who have died in the line of duty, or to put it another way, while on their way to work, at work, or on their way home from work. 432 compared to more than 1,740 people who have died either in police custody or otherwise following contact with the police. Now, it's important to note that 432 includes those from Northern Ireland and Scotland, And as the figures on deaths of the public was only counted for England and Wales, I wanted to be a bit more accurate. So I went through them again, and I found that since 1990, 91 police from the old Royal Ulster Constabulary, which is the new police service of Northern Ireland, have died, bringing the 432 down to 341 police constables in England, Wales and Scotland in this case. I simply ran out of time and haven't been able to go through again and eliminate those from Police Scotland forces. But I think you're getting the picture here. It's likely to be very close to 300 police constables in England and Wales who have died, either on their way to work, while at work, or on their way home from work, for any reason. That could be a heart attack, it could be they were killed on duty, it could be a vehicle crash on the way home. But they need protecting from the public? How does that make any sense? I mean, it's utter madness that the police suggest they need more protection when it's clear that the public are the ones who are most at risk of death, either while in contact with the police or following contact. What we need is a People's Protection Against Police Act. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think anyone should be treated in a way that results in their death, unless it's a paedophile. But I think it's very clear that the narrative being played out here is in clear opposition of the facts available. But of course, most people in the public don't know these numbers and simply take the word of the police and the government as fact. Because the police and government wouldn't lie to us now, would they? Another report about vulnerable adults being abused in care homes this time, as 3 staff at Vancouver House in Netherley, Merseyside have been sacked following the investigation into allegations that vulnerable residents were abused at the specialist mental health care home. The care home is for adults with learning difficulties. The home cares for adults with learning difficulties. The home cares for adults with learning difficulties, mental illnesses or other impairments. It's been said that since the allegations were made at the start of February, the Care Quality Commission, Liverpool Council and Liverpool Clinical Commissioning Group have all been monitoring the specialist mental health facility. A Merseyside police spokesman said, "We received a report on February the 5th, 2020 that staff at Vancouver House had verbally abused a woman and man who were resident at the home. 3 members of staff were dismissed by the care home after the allegations came to light, and the Care Quality Commission and Social Services also made aware. Following inquiries, witnesses declined to support police action, and no further action will be taken in the matter, pending further evidence coming to light." So people who made the allegations, which were evident enough for 3 members of staff to be sacked, have decided not to follow up on the police action and let the people get away with it. This is something we're seeing more of, where the police are failing to follow up on investigations into care home abuse, even with evidence, such as videos in some cases. It's almost as if our grandparents and parents don't matter to the police. It's almost as if tracking down a serial tweeter is more important than safeguarding our elderly relatives. What's that all about? Since the departure of the 3 members of staff, Vancouver House has been inspected by the Care Quality Commission, receiving an overall rating of requires improvement, although the subcategories effective, caring and responsive managed good ratings. PRIORY Adult Care, which runs Vancouver House, said its own safeguarding procedures had identified the incidents, which is a lie because allegations were made, so they didn't come across it themselves. The spokesperson said the safety and well-being of the people we support is of paramount importance to us. Following reports made under our own safeguarding procedures, 3 members of staff were dismissed, and we have worked closely with the police and safeguarding authorities throughout. We have put additional welfare measures in place, and the last Care Quality Commission report following a visit in March this year said the home was good for being caring, responsive and effective. Police could be given powers to stop and search people with knife convictions without the need for further suspicion under new government plans. The Home Office says it wants to use serious violence reduction orders to increase the chances of repeat offenders being caught and imprisoned. Courts would get powers to grant the orders on people convicted of carrying an offensive weapon, even if they have not received custodial or immediate prison sentences. meaning that a court can impose an order on someone which would see them being stopped and searched whenever a copper sees them. This could ultimately lead to people being stopped multiple times a day. Under current stop and search laws, police must have reasonable grounds to carry out search, such as suspecting someone is carrying drugs or a weapon. The serious violence reduction orders, however, would become the sole basis for the search for the duration of the court order if the plans are approved. Those with an order who are caught reoffending would then likely receive a jail term under existing two-strike legislation. Well, here's an idea. How about stop giving people who are caught with machetes in the street suspended sentences? In my opinion, it's the same as what's happening with the prolific paedophile incidents that we hear about all too often. The courts do not do enough to make these crimes a concern for the offenders. It's like saying to someone, if you kill someone, you'll get 6 weeks in prison, breakfast, lunch and dinner every day, TV and games room. Not exactly a deterrent, is it? An 8-week public consultation on the proposals was launched by the Home Office today. Now, I am fully against people carrying weapons. Only pussies carry weapons, and they should be dealt with harshly. However, I can't see how this would not breach the human rights of those under the order. Yes, it may deter people from carrying knives, but it could also encourage others to carry the weapons for their mates, knowing that the person under the order can be arbitrarily searched, but a companion could only be searched if there is reasonable suspicion that he or she is carrying a weapon. So is this going to reduce the number of people carrying weapons, or is it simply going to increase the number of people exposed to carrying them? It's a tough one, because if they allow this, then how long will it be before they create orders for other less serious offences simply to keep abusing people? But of course, let me know what you think down there in the comments. Very big thank you to channel supporters one and all, especially channel Patreon supporters. Your support truly helps. And that's all I have for you today. Please like, please share, please comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police, and of course, other officials. Good night, all. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.